everybody. Good afternoon. It is Jean here. I am working on my tote bag. As you saw the last few videos, I was saying I'm going to do a tutorial on my tote bag. I've only gotten this far because I've chatted for about half an hour. So if you folks want this smallest bit of tutorial on the beginning of my tote bag, fast forward about half an hour, because I've chatted and I've talked to you and I visited and you've come into my sewing room, and I've gone over the minutia of what I do, as you know. It's not a long tutorial, but I explain exactly what I do, and that's to come. I was chatting to you this morning about life and how kind you are and some things that happened. But yeah, this is the front of my bag, and this is the back of my bag, and I've shown you how I'm doing the fusible interfacing and the things that I have, what I have to hand, what you might have or not have, because things are hard to get. So that's all I've gotten. My little corners I've cut out, shown you my lining, but that's to come in the next tutorials. This is all I've gotten, and then I'm chatting to you. I'm going to have a relax. I'm going to go have my cup of tea now, and yeah, so I just hope you just enjoy this, enjoy me, enjoy relaxing and not getting stressed out about some, hard tutorial. Again, I think the few bits that I've done on my tutorial is about half an hour in on this long video. All right, folks, thanks again, and we will see you when we do for the rest or the continuation of my little tote bag here. All right, enjoy yourselves. See ya. Bye. Good morning, everybody. This is Jean here, Jean Truelove from Truelove Quilts for You. I'm going to be doing a tutorial in many little steps, because if you've been following along, you know that I'm not going to stress myself by doing a rigid tutorial on my tote bag that I was showing you. I've just come here, put my camera up. I'm going to have a chat. The last time we spoke, and I got a lot of lovely comments. I was talking to you about the stresses that the quarantine and our lockdown, especially in our area, our shelter in place, has been bringing to our family, our small little family here. There's just the three of us, my husband, our son Maxwell, and myself. And as I was telling you before, because I'm honest, Maxwell really got on my nerves. I got on his nerves, and we were all getting on everybody's nerves. And the general consensus is, so I think worldwide, everybody's getting on everybody's nerves, because this is just so unprecedented, just so horrible. But I apologize to our Maxwell, who's autistic, and because I snapped at him, and it's not the first time. My goodness, cut me a break. We all get on each other's nerves, but he was getting agitated, and as you know, I told you the other day, our daughter must have felt those negative vibes, because we're usually very okay with each other. She came and took him on a long hike. He came back exhausted. He came back tired. And you have to understand with Maxwell, he's autistic, highly functioning, as you know. He's a delightful kid. He was walking in the course that he was at, about 4 miles a day on the campus. He was walking and walking. We can take walks, we're outside, we can take drives, which we have been, but it's not the same. It's not the same. We really, especially our county, it's very much stay at home. Because people are like, oh, go out. And I'm like, well, yeah, we do for essential shopping and things, but we are really been advised to stay at home, and everybody's staying at home. So I'm like, cut me a break. Like, all of our family around, within 20 minutes of each other, all of our other children are staying at home. But it's going to be okay. Hopefully, I keep saying, whatever the new normal is for the summertime, hopefully we can get some kind of normality. We're all back to like feeling okay. We sort of regrouped. My husband went away. I said, just go away. And it was funny last night. I mean, I cook. We have 10 kids. I cooked forever, right? I fed the 5,000. Like the majority of you, right? I am so sick of eating like groceries. And we don't eat out a lot. But I said last night, I said, I'm not cooking again. I'm so fed up. I'm like, I'm not cooking. I've washed the more dishes and more pans and are trying to come up with decent food. I want some rubbish takeout food. Anyway, we didn't. We got some really good Chinese food. It was awesome. They delivered. We wiped down the packages, of course. It was really good. My husband isn't all that much into Chinese. He's typically English, and but he scoffed it. I had gotten quite a lot, so I said, "Oh, we can have it for tonight." Well, that didn't last. We ate double of it. Oh, it was so very, very good. And it was a new Chinese restaurant. Not that you're interested, but you're interested, right? It was funny. We were like shoveling this food in our mouths. We're like, oh, it's not like food I cooked. Anyway, we're all sort of back to an even keel. It's cooled down a bit. It was so hot. It was funny. We had a log fire a week ago because it was like 30, and then it went up to like 80. Seriously. Our area, this is crazy. So we're trying to just stay normal and sane. But I am going to be doing this little tutorial. But I had to laugh. I wanted to show you, this is the tutorial. Of course, if you've been following me, you know that this is the tutorial that I'm doing. I had made these two bags, okay? I'd made this little more slouchy bag with the purchased handles. And then I made this bag, which is a little bit stiffer. Now, quite a few people are saying, well, can you do a tutorial on the slouchy bag because I can't find the interfacing? Well, I can't either. I have at my disposal here, because I've had it forever, I have stiffening interfacing, the Pellon, the Peltex, or the interfacing, or the fusible, whatever. But quite a few people are saying, I can't get it. I went online, you can't get it. You can't get this stuff. So it's like, and if you can, it's like $20 a yard or something ridiculous when it was like $5. Well, I don't know. But it's like expensive stuff and you can't really get it. So what I'm going to be doing is I thought, I have it. So I will be showing it again. If you have this, if you have the stiffener, which I don't know what it is. And as I was saying in my last tutorial, I'm not a bag maker. And if you go on any site and look up fusible interfacings or stabilizers, there's hundreds. There's hundreds. And obviously people who make bags know, well, this one is this XY295 does this, and I have no idea. I have no idea. If it's stiff, it's nice. If it's not, I use like you can use batting. And you guys probably have batting. But it's going to be real slouchy. And also, I thought, well, what I might do is I might make two of the softer one with a zipper. Again, bear with me. I made this bag. This is pretty crummy, but it works. I made this bag, as I showed you, with a zipper on the top, which is completely sewn in. Now, I was thinking, okay, I'll do that tutorial on that zipper, and everyone's like, oh yeah, do that tutorial on that zipper. It's real thick. It turned out, but again, I'm not an expert, but it looks nice. It turned out, but it's thick. And people, and I even had, not trouble, but my Juki, which is a heavy-duty mechanical machine, it sort of like was like, I'm thinking, if you just have like your grandmom's machine that's 25 years old, you might have trouble making a bag, because I was looking again on tutorials, bag ladies, they have like heavy duty machines, heavy duty needles to go, obviously through leather, through cork, through home deck fabric, through 8 things of seams. It's a lot. It's a lot. And as I was saying, this wasn't hard, but it's a little bit it's a little bit fussy. And again, I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to kill myself to show you how I make this in totally enclosed seam. So I was all excited about that, sort of, because it was a little bit, not hard, but like tricky. Then I thought, I couldn't believe it. I went to my handbag, which I haven't used in 3 months. I went to my handbag. I have a really nice handbag. I think I got this at TJ Maxx. And look at this. It's almost exactly the same look as my tote bag, right? It has 2 handles, plain, bucket, you know, boxed bag. Of course, it's like this fake leather. But I was looking, oh, and it has a pocket, a zippered pocket, which I really do like, which I said I was going to show you maybe later on how to do the zippered pocket, because I do know how to do that. But it's not like for a beginner. But I was looking at it, and look what it has. It has a concealed zip, or a zip at the top, but it has an opening here, a flappy zipper, and an opening there. And I was looking at the actual construction, trying to figure out, oh, well, of course, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I went on YouTube and there's a million tutorials on how to do this, which is much easier than that. This is a whole piece that you sew around and you put darts in and you box the corners, and I did it. Not fantastic, but I was looking at this and I thought, oh, I'm going to do that, right? I'm going to do that zipper, which I'm sure all of you have seen. You have your zipper, like a tab here and an opening there, and it's much, I would think, and it is, I was looking at some tutorials, it's much easier to construct. But I thought, okay, I woke up the other night thinking, well, okay, I'm going to do this zipper because this handbag can have it, I can do it, right? And then a couple people on my YouTube, my comments were like, oh, can you do this? Can you do the tutorial on this one that's completely enclosed and not the one where the zipper's floppy? You guys know who you are. And I'm like, wah. I thought, oh, this is easier. I think. So, you know what I'm going to do? As I go along, once I get to this stupid tutorial, it's not stupid, I'm going to make both. I'm going to show you, I'm going to try, because I've never done this. I've only done that twice. And it's sort of all puffy. And it was hard. It wasn't hard. It was just like, maybe your ordinary little sewing machine will struggle. And I don't think your ordinary little sewing machine will struggle with this construction. Anyway, I'm going to make 2 bags, right? And I showed you the material that I'm going to make my little tote bag with here. I'm going to make it with a panel, blah, blah, blah. You heard that. Oh, and then somebody did say the border would be nice for the zipper thing here, right? Well, that's awesome. But I think, as I said, I have 2 borders. I think I'm going to put one on the top of the bag. So, but I will see. I will see if I can utilize that border somehow. And as I go along, I'll show you if it works. My other bag is, I've had this fabric, for 20 years, and I have a whole bunch of it. And I pulled out this panel. Isn't that sweet? I made a quilt for a baby 15 or 16 years ago when I first started, but I had the fabric before. I don't know why I had it, because it's an old fabric, but it's a little carousel horse. So it was sort of like make a diaper bag looking tote, but it is a panel. I have a couple of them. So somehow I'm going to try to make my second bag, which will be floppier than this bag, which will be stiffer, which I do have my stiffening stuff, whatever. Oh, I also changed my mind, and I was going to use this sort of a graphic ombre looking stuff for the lining of my blue bag, because on the color wheel, yellow, blue and yellow, blue and orange, but I saw this in my stash. I thought that was so bright and pretty, and that was a little bit somber, that orange. So I loved this sort of salmony, peachy color for my lining, for my tote bag. And then I am going to be using my black handles. Coming to handles. Oh my word, you people are so kind to comment. I got 2 comments from both Carmen and Karen. What a good tip. Go to the thrift store. Oh, you can't go to the thrift store because thrift stores aren't open. But even maybe in like the back of your closet, you have an old handbag. My goodness, who doesn't have old handbags? Don't toss them. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Take the handles off of them. Maybe even take the zipper out of it. I don't know. But like the handles from thrift store handbags. What a good idea. You get stuff I know at the Goodwill or the thrift stores I go to for like $3. And they're butt ugly bags. But like the handles are awesome. You know, they may be from the 70s or the 80s, but I'm thinking, wow, what a good idea, because these handles are expensive. These handles are expensive. Also, as I was saying, look outside the box. I won't repeat that, blah, 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 but like look at, even if you have an old winter, even if you have like an old linen shirt, or stuck in the back of your husband's closet, he has a really goofy looking linen jacket from the 1980s. Hello? Cut out a nice square, we can make your bag. Really think outside the box. Some old curtains, some old pillows. I thought that was an awesome suggestion, both from Carmen and Karen. You know who you are. And also, again, somebody was saying, well, how in the world do you clean these? I'm like, oh, don't ask me that. Obviously, you would spot clean them, but maybe because they're fabric, you'd want, I don't know, you couldn't toss it in the washing machine. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I just wipe my handbags down. But then I got thinking, maybe like a Scotch, after you're making it, and because it is fabric, like a Scotch Guard, a spray in the, a spray can of Scotch Guard that treats fabric. I think that would be a good idea. So you could Scotch Guard that. Quite a lot of people, as I was saying in my previous video, quite a lot of people like this, the classic look, the more quiet look. So I'm thinking, well, I'm going again with my brighter fabrics that I like, my bolder fabrics. But I did make this. I can be classic sometimes. So I chose the blue. I just, again, off subject, which I do, but I just wanted to thank, oh my word, I wanted to film his reaction. I just got a comment from My Crafty Channel. There's no lady, but My Crafty Channel. No, lovely comment. Oh my word, you people are so nice. She commented how nice, blah, 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 but then she sent me a link for fabulous red sneaker trainer running shoes for Maxwell. Again, my previous video, he's been looking for red shoes. He has such a wide, 12 wide foot. $75, they're on sale. I clicked on the link because she said, oh, that you might be interested for Maxwell. He was thrilled. He was beyond thrilled. His expression, he got off, like, oh wow, yeah. So we've ordered them. It's going to be so wonderful. I just want to tell you, he got his phone case and his screen protector for his new phone. So he's back to being a happy camper. We all had a bit of a break. We did a bit of retail shopping. I did a bit of retail shopping. I'm thinking, my camera just clicked off. I was saying that I have done a little bit of retail shopping. I haven't done any shopping at all. So I thought I like to shop, but it's amazing what we can do with that. Right? It's amazing what we can do with that. I've gone like 3 months without going to the shops. I don't really miss it. And I think this has taught us, truly what this has taught us, is the important things in life. Like, it's not stuff. It's not stuff. It's our health. It's our relationships. It's our well-being. Our being content. I keep saying we are very blessed to have a close family, but perhaps there's others out there who don't, and it's a real trial. Our hearts really go out to you guys. We are, everybody's under a bit of stress. We are desperately, no, not desperately. We are just trying to get our house, our other home that we've moved from, readying for sale. That's been a stressor. So our home 10 minutes away, our family home, hopefully within the next couple days or within the next week or so, hopefully we can put that up for sale and that will sell. I don't know. Maybe in this area, I have no idea. We're trying to keep positive. And again, so I'm going to be putting my camera down. Thank you for listening to me. I'm going to be putting my camera down and figuring out the dimensions to cut my panel, to sort of figure out both things. The zippers, what we are going to need. I have to put my thinking cap on. I'll just start this tutorial If you've come for a full-blown tutorial, as I was saying, it may take me a couple, because I'm not going to stress out. I'll put my camera up, and whatever comes to be will be. And again, you guys are so kind, like, oh, you don't mind me chatting away. So you know what to expect when you click on my videos. Oh, I must say, I just saw, I have 30,000 subscribers. 30,000 people. Like, that's amazing. That's amazing. I was like freaked out. I'm thinking, that's just amazing. You don't understand. Like, I'm just this like stay-at-home mom of 10 kids, and you know, and I just, again, long story long, how this happened was if you're interested, our one son, our fourth son, and his wife, when they were first married, I think I've told you this a while ago, they buy and rent homes. They have a lot of real estate. But what they did is they bought a 48-foot sailboat, beautiful sailing yacht. They took a year off of life and they sailed around the Caribbean, all over the Caribbean and down to South America. Just the two of them and their dog. A Native American Indian dog, Bear. And again, if you've been following me, I've shown you a few pictures of Bear. And they did a YouTube, what he did is he did a YouTube channel. It's called SV Seawolf, if you want to go. That's our son, Dominic. And they documented their trips. And he's done it really good. He's done it like in 10-minute increments. I waffle on and on and on. And he's like, Mom, you got to keep your videos shorter. I'm like, no, stop. Like, he would do little clips of their adventures on their sailboat. So what I'm getting to is, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, I was in my sewing room at home, or at our other house, and always be home. I was in my sewing room, and you can see it. The very first video I've ever done on YouTube. Ow, I'm 20 pounds later. That's a bummer. But anyway, Dominic came in, and he said, he's very, just gets things done. And he came in, he said, what are you doing, Mom? And I said, I'm making this quilt. And he said, and it was an interesting method. I was appliquing circles, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, that looks pretty cool. And I'm like, oh, thanks, whatever. And he came back with a camera. And he's looking at me, he says, tell me what you're doing. And I said, what are you talking about? What am I doing? I said, I'm making this. He goes, just show me. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm putting my needle down and I'm sewing a circle. And he's videotaping me. And I think, and anyway, it was for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or however long it was doing this thing. He's like, that's pretty cool. He comes back like 20 minutes later. He said, okay, Mom, you have a YouTube channel. I said, what? What are you talking about? I have a YouTube channel. At that point, I really didn't know a lot about YouTube. He's like, I have a YouTube channel. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your camera, or I want you to get a camera. This is how he talks. I want you to get a camera, and I want you to get a tripod, and I want you to start videotaping what you're doing. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I had just got a really decent camera to take pictures. So he looked at my camera. It was a Nikon. He's like, this is a nice camera, Mom. It records. So at that time, Elliot and Maxwell, and I believe Niles was living with us. They're like, have the boys video you. So the first like 10 or 20 videos, you see the videos, you know, I'm trying to explain what I'm doing, and my sewing room was a mess, and it was just funny. So that's how I got started. And I remember he put the thing up, and I think he told the family, so instantly I got like 40 subscribers, right? He's like, subscribe to Mom, subscribe to Mom. and Daddy was like, subscribe to Mommy, you know, she has a YouTube channel. Anyway, fast forward 3 or 4 years, and I had 30,000 people who watch, who maybe don't watch me, but like who you know, kindly subscribe. But I have people like you guys who are really subscribing and who really watch me. Now, how cool is that? Anyway, I'm really talking a lot. I feel good. Maxwell feels good. Ian's out. He's doing something. We're having a good day. We've had a couple really crummy days, as you guys have. And anyway, I'm going to try to get the beginning of these series of tutorials to make a silly little bag, right? It's not silly. It's not silly. But it's just me chatting away and you guys appreciating me. Boy, oh boy, do I appreciate that. All right, so let me just put my camera down and I will start. And again, Jen says hi, Maxwell says hi. Thank you, Carmen, and thank you, Karen, and thank you, My Crafty Channel, for all of your hints and all of your lovely comments. How wonderful. You're all my friends. I love you all. All right, let's get to try to make this silly bag. All right, see ya. The first thing I'm going to do with my blue tote bag is I have isolated from my blue panel, I've isolated the panels that I want to use for the, I want to use it that way, for the top and the front and the back of my bag, okay? Now we are going to be needing two 17-inch squares. Okay, so there's 17 on my border, my table, and there's 17. So here's my two pieces of fabric. This is going to be the top. This is going to be the top of my bag, and this is going to be the back, the body of my bag. Now what I have done is I've already done one piece. I have to build up my sides and perhaps a little bit in here because I want that a bit isolated. I want that a little bit separate from this pattern, and on the sides and the bottom here, I think. So what I'm going to do is I've already done it with one. I can't give you the exact measurements for your bag, for your panel, because you might have a large panel that you've had to just cut down to 17-inch square. You might have a small panel that you're going to have to be building up your pieces with maybe other patterns to come up to your 17-inch square. So I've already cut these out, and I've already made one of them. And what I've done, here's either the front or the back of my bag. What I have done is I have cut out from my black fabric, I had cut out just some larger pieces, with the fabric, and I figured out that I just needed a small bit in here to make this a little bit more pronounced. You can't even really see that black seam or that seam there because it's in the black. And then I've added a little bit wider to the sides, and then I cut them down. I made it a little bit bigger, and I cut them down to my 17-inch square. Okay, so whatever, again, I can't tell you exactly what size fabric, except that for this tote bag you're going to be starting out with a 17-inch square. Now this is my tote bag here, and this is how I'm sort of auditioning it on my bag. And my bag top is going to be this little border up here, but I wanted, as you can see, I wanted the sides to be solid. So wrapping around the sides, the front and the back are going to be black, and on my main design is going to be the blue, which is going to wrap around the bottom also, but a little bit of the black. So as I go along, I will show you how the pattern and the design has taken shape here. So I'm going to do my other bit. I'm going to end up with two pieces exactly 17 inches square. Then I'm going to be cutting from my lining fabric. I'm going to be cutting the exact same thing. I'm going to be cutting two 17-inch square pieces of fabric from my lining, but I'll show you how I do that. So I've cut my 17-inch square front and back to my tote bag, and then because I've built up my panel, and I've also cut my lining fabric. And if you had half a yard of fabric, it would do well, or a little bit more, because you're going to need a little bit more. But what I've done is I've put, just like I did with my box bags, my little bucket bags, I put the right sides together when I've actually cut my fabric, and then I've cut the top off. You're going to be needing that, plus a little bit more for our zipper, our enclosed zipper thing. Okay. Now, what we're going to be doing now is I'm going to be cutting a square, just like we did with our bucket bags. This is a very simple way to make a boxed corner. But I just wanted to show you, because you may be wanting to make your tote bag smaller or bigger. I just wanted to show you what I've done here. I don't know if you can see this. This is just a scrap of fabric that I had, and I've just written on here just for teaching's sake here. What I've done is I have taken a scrap of fabric, and I have had two pieces of fabric like that, and I cut out a 2.5-inch square. Okay, so there's my 2.5 inch, and there's my 2.5 inch. Okay, and I cut out that square, right? I did that with this piece, these two pieces of fabric. All right, I did that with these two pieces of fabric. Now, I'm going to take you over to my machine, and again, this is just for a little teaching thing, if you don't realize, to make a boxed bottom of a bag, whether it be a small little cosmetic bag or a large tote bag, a big beach bag, what you're wanting to realize is when you do your, say, 2.5 inch square, cutting out your corner here, you've cut out your corner, what you're going to do is you're going to put your pieces together. You're going to put your squares together, right sides together, pretty sides together. Let me figure this out. Pretty sides together. You've cut out your square. Say, here's my little square. I've cut out my square there. Okay? I've cut that out, and I'm going to stitch down that side. I'm going to stitch down the bottom, and I'm going to stitch this side, okay, with these. And then what you do is exactly what I've done here, is then you've cut out your squares, and then here's my square right there. There's my square, and then over there, I didn't do that side seam. What you're going to do is you're going to pull your seams together like that. And then you're going to stitch across. Now I'm going to show you this. What I'm getting at is this 2.5 inch square. Bear with me. I'll make sense in a minute. That 2.5 inch square on that little bag is that size. It turns out 5 inches. There you go. We have a 5 inch boxed bottom. You got that? With my bottom seams matching. That would be the bottom of my bag. Okay, if I did the other side, there would be my bag. Okay, you got that? So now that's a 2.5 inch. That's 2.5 inches for the bottom of my bag. What if I cut out a 3 inch square? Okay, what am I going to come out with? There's my 3 inch, wait a second, yeah, I'm doing the upside down. There's my 3 inch square. Right there. I'm going to do my 3 inch square on each side of my bag. Wait a second. There we go. 3 inches and 3 inches. Now, what is that going to make? What is that going to make? I should have scissors. And you see I'm cutting this out with the pretty sides together because I'm going to sew it exactly like I cut it. Okay, so here's a 3 inch square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew there, I'm going to sew there, and I'm going to sew there. Now I'll be right, again, this is just a little aside. If you're going to be making bags and you're trying to figure out what size bottom or base, and again, if you're making small little cosmetic bags or a pencil case or any little tote bag, you're trying to figure out the size bottom that you want, okay? Now this, again, is a 3 inch square. Obviously, I've used black thread. You must excuse that. I didn't backstitch. But now what you're going to be wanting to do, this is the bottom of our bag. I should have used a bigger piece. Is what you're going to be doing is I will press that seam open. I will press the seams open, all right? And then I'll match them up. I'll match them up as best I can, right? Now, what you're going to be wanting to do is before you start, you might think, oh, I'll just sew that across. Well, what you're wanting to do is you're going to make sure that when you pin that or clip it, and they're going to be sewing perhaps 1/2 inch, if you sewed 1/4 inch on that seam, just try to figure this out. If you sewed 1/4 inch, it would only be that big of a bottom, okay? But like on this one, I sewed a little bit more than 1/4 inch. And it ended up, it almost 1/2 inch, and it ended up a 5 inch base. So you're going to have to figure out, if you're sewing 1/2 inch there and 1/2 inch, if you're going to sew 1/2 inch seam, then your bottom here is going to be 6.5 inches. You got that? And what you're wanting to do is you're going to be going over to your machine. You might just say, okay, I've matched up these seams here. I've matched them up real good. I pin them. But really what you want to do is you want to line up that seam as best you can on your cutting mat on a nice straight line, making sure that this is all pulled out. You don't get any tucks in here. And then you mark a line. You mark a line where you want to stitch it. You might think that's not necessary, but if you're even the slightest bit off, your corners of your bag are going to be crooked. So it's very important that you line this up. I just found this when I was making these little bags. This has this to make a nice box corner. I mean, if it's a little bit crooked, who cares? But if you want to make it really nice, you've clipped that or you've pinned it really well. You've pinned that really well. Now I'm going to go over and I'm going to sew that, and I'm going to show you the size of my boxed bottom. Again, this is just a little aside. If you're going to be making bags and you're trying to figure out what size bottom or base, and again, if you're making small little cosmetic bags or a pencil case or any little tote bag, you're trying to figure out the size bottom that you want. Okay, now this again is a 3-inch square. Obviously I've used black thread, you must excuse that, I didn't backstitch. But now what you're going to be wanting to do, this is the bottom of our bag, I should have used a bigger piece, is what you're going to be doing is I will press that seam open. I will press the seams open, all right, and then I'll match them up. I'll match them up as best I can, right? Now what you're going to be wanting to do is, before you start, you might think, oh, I'll just sew that across. Well, what you're wanting to do is you're going to make sure that when you pin that or clip it, and they're going to be sewing perhaps 1/2 inch, if you sewed 1/4 inch on that seam, just try to figure this out. If you sewed 1/4 inch, it would only be that big of a bottom, okay? But like on this one, I sewed a little bit more than 1/4 inch. And it ended up at almost 1/2 inch, and it ended up a 5-inch base. So you're going to have to figure out, if you're sewing 1/2 inch there and 1/2 inch, if you're going to sew 1/2 inch seam, then your bottom here is going to be 6.5 inches. You got that? And what you're wanting to do is you're going to be going over to your machine. You might just say, okay, I've matched up these seams here. I've matched them up real good. I pin them. But really what you want to do is you want to line up that seam as best you can on your cutting mat on a nice straight line, making sure that this is all pulled out. You don't get any tucks in here. And then you mark a line. You mark a line where you want to stitch it. You might think that's not necessary, but if you're even the slightest bit off, your corners of your bag are going to be crooked. So it's very important that you line this up. I just found this when I was making these little bags. This has this to make a nice box corner. I mean, if it's a little bit crooked, who cares? But if you want to make it really nice, you've clipped that or you've pinned it really well. You've pinned that really well. Now I'm going to go over and I'm going to sew that, and I'm going to show you the size of my box. So here is my seam that I've sewn across the bottom of my bag, taking my 3 inches off, and I just want to use it. I should have used a little bit of bigger piece, but you can get the idea. Again, this is just for your information. Look how wide that bottom of a bag will be. You see that? That is the bottom of your tote bag. That would make a nice, or your handbag. That will make a really nice size. So what I'm saying is the size of your square that you cut out is going to be doubled the width of your base of your bag. All right? So there's your 3 inches there, and there's your 3 inches there. You're making a 6-inch wide, or this one is 6.5 inches because I've done the seam allowance. So if I made a smaller seam allowance, do you see it? It all takes in consideration. So I'm going to be using a 1/2 inch seam allowance on my tote bags. So I will be getting a 5.5. Oh, it's a bit. Let me just see. It's a little bit more than. It's about 5 1/4 inches. from, let's see, point, no, it's about 5.5 inches from point to point from my 2.5 inch square here. It's just a little bit more. So it's not specific, but again, I find if you really do keep it straight, you're thinking you're keeping your sewing straight, but you're not. So it might get a little bit skewed. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, with my right sides, my pretty sides together on the bottom of my lining, whichever that is, and it's an all over print, I'm okay with that. Scratch these together. I'm going to mark, I want my 5 inch or a little bit more bottom. I'm going to mark 2.5 inch squares on each. Scratch it together because I'm going to cut it and sew it exactly as this is. I'm going to find my 2.5 inch square. I just use a Sharpie because that gets cut off anyway on the bottom of my bag. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the base, on my bag. So there's the top. I've scratched them together. I'll line them up so it's nice and square on my board. I'm going to take my 2.5 inch marker here. I won't be able to see it. Maybe I'll use a highlighter. Oh, wait a second. Or an orange one. Let me just see. This is going to be dark too. Anyway, I'm going to mark these. I'm going to cut them, and then I'm going to box the corners of my. I'm going to box the corners. Now, I've gone ahead and I've cut out my corners of my bag, but before we sew them together, obviously now what we're going to do is that's going to be nice and this exact same size, but what we're going to do is we have to make, for now, for our top of our bag, the outside of our bag, we're going to have to stiffen it up, okay? Now, this is where it comes in. Quite a lot of you are having trouble finding the interfacing, the Peltex, the Pellon, the whatever. But what I have here, what I've pulled from my stash here, is this stuff, okay? I have this stuff now. I don't have enough of it. And I believe this is from Pellon. This is called Peltex. As you can see, it's a very, very stiff stabilizer interfacing, and I believe it is, yeah, it is a fusible. I don't have enough of it, all right? Because now what I would do is I would fuse that onto my bag, okay? I would fuse that onto the bag. Now, but I don't have enough of it, okay? And that probably would be enough for me for this bag, but I don't have enough of it, and this is not what I used for my other bag. What I did for my other bag is I did a two-step process, okay? What I have here, this is a fusible fleece. It's a lighter weight fusible fleece. I got this a while ago, I believe on eBay, and I don't know if they have any more of it. The site, I don't think it has. I think it's sold out. I don't know why all of this is selling out. But I had used this. Now it only comes, what is this, 21 wide, I believe, or 15 inches wide. So I had to, for my other bag, my tan bag, I had to sort of piece it just down here. But what I've done is I've used this piece, I've used this fleece, and then I have, it is a Pellon. I don't know what it is. I'm sure you guys have been using this also. This is another iron-on fusible interfacing. Now, with all due respect to Pellon, I don't love this because it wrinkles when you iron it. So you have to be very, very, very careful. That's what I'm saying when I go to iron this on. But again, I want to show you my two-step process of what I have at hand. This is what I have at hand for my stiffer bag here, okay? Now what I'm going to do is whatever interfacing you have, I'm going to do it. I'm going to show you, if you can see that hopefully, I'm going to be cutting this. I'll take one at a time. I'll be cutting this, and I'll be cutting it a good 1/2 inch smaller. Actually, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. Can you see that? I won't, because I don't want that in my seam. I don't want that heavy bulk in the bottom of my seam. I'll have some of it for stability, but for the most part, I don't want to be, again, people who have their, you know, not a heavy sewing machine, you don't want all of this bulk. This is my first layer of iron-on. Okay, so there, Can you see that? I've left a good, maybe an inch up here, and then a good half an inch on either side, and then a good half an inch to an inch on the bottom. So right now, and then I'm going to cut this out. Obviously, I'm going to cut it out here because I don't want to be boxing my corners with all of this bulk. I don't want all of that bulk in my seams. My machine could handle it, but maybe yours couldn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out. That's interesting that it's just that I have the exact width I need. That's great. I don't have to piece it. I'm going to go over, and with my pressing cloth, as you know, I use my pressing cloth. Which is just a hunk of muslin. I'm going to go over to my ironing board. I can iron on this Martelli mat, but I'm not going to. I have my ironing station. And I'm going to fuse that. I'm going to gently fuse it here. And then what I do is I turn over my top, and then I iron and press it here on the top so I don't have any wrinkles or anything. So that's my one-step process for this first piece of stabilizer. And believe it or not, then I'm going to go back with this product, which is this iron-on stuff, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. And that's going to be on, I'm going to iron that on, again, I'm going to iron that on this part, which is not fused. This is fused and that's not. I'm going to iron that on real carefully and fuse that. Then what I'm going to do is, well, I'll show you that when I get to it. I'll show you that. I'm going to actually stitch with black thread around here, and then just do maybe a black thing, sort of just to sort of secure it. Even though it's fused, I want to stitch, not quilted as such, but just stitch. You can quilt it if you wanted to, even though you fused it. But I'm just going to sort of stitch it together with my black thread. So you won't see my black thread, but the fusing has been stitched down. I quite like that. My ironing station here, and you can see that I have the front of my tote bag. I'm going to do both sides of it. And I have put on this fusible fleece, and as you can see, it has become, as I always say, that's become one with the fabric. That really has. You want to make sure, I always use a pressing cloth whenever I'm doing any kind of fusibles at all, if I'm going to be doing it on that side. Just because I don't want, I've had glue on my iron, and I'm sure most of you have. So I can't stress the emphasize enough how, look at the manufacturer's instructions, and if it says 15 seconds, count a long 15 seconds. Especially when you're using a pressing cloth on the inside, you're not going to scorch your fabric, and you really want that glue to melt. You really, really want that glue to melt. Now, that's really pretty good, but again, at the end of the day, I'm going to be doing not a quilting stitch. By all means, you could do a quilting stitch. You could just keep going down like that and across a nice grid, or you could free motion quilt it if you want. But I'm pretty assured, and with this design, I'm just going to go like along here and along there with some black, maybe down the middle, just to secure that. Even though I don't really need to, that's what I'm going to do. Now my second layer of defense, and this is again, I'm using these. I'm going to show you what other products you could use, but this is what I'm using, and this is what I use. Now I cut that piece, as you can see, I cut these about an inch, a half inch to an inch smaller. But this piece, which has the fusible glue, which is stiff, which is a stiff interface, and I'm sorry, I can't tell you what it is because I've lost the packaging. And I had bought it in bulk, but this one I'm making slightly larger. This is going to be slightly more into the seam, not my heavier fleece here, my fusible batting or my fusible fleece. I don't want that big bulk into the seam allowance, but this interfacing, this stiffener interfacing, I'm just having it a little bit into the seam allowance. If you can see there, you see that? It's about a quarter of an inch away. Again, fusible glue side, shiny side down. I'm just going to pat it down just to secure it, just to get the process started with my pressing cloth, just to get it started. Because now this is fusing not onto the fabric, as you can see, this is fusing onto the fleece. And again, it's a two, you may think, well, you know, you could build up as many layers as you want. Even if you just had a medium weight interfacing, if you can use a couple of layers, there's no, you know, reason you can't. If you want a stiff bag and you can't find the interfacing, or you could use like I could actually use, which I've done before, I could actually use that piece of muslin and sort of quilt it and have more layers, not in the seam allowance though, but in the body of the bag. Now my bag is getting fairly nice and built up. Now you have to remember that this is just 1/2 of my bag. So I'm going to have the lining, and I'm also going to put this fusible inside my lining. So I have about 5 layers of 5 or 6 or whatever it is. Now that's sort of adhered, but not good enough, obviously. I'm going to take my time now with this panel or this, and I'm going to just sit here for the next 20 minutes and I'm going to fuse and fuse and fuse and fuse to make sure that these 3 layers really do fuse. Now, for my couple tote bags back, I used a fusible foam, right? I used foam, which is awesome. It's very, let me just see if I can get it over here. Yeah, this is what I used for my one tote bag. Excuse me. This is what I used. It's a foam. It's like a foam rubber. Okay? And this is good. This is very good, but it's very as you can see, it's a soft foam. It's a lovely foam. Now, I believe that this is what I'm going to be using in my slouchy bag. This is where my panel. No, I'm not. My red bag, my red tote that you saw, it's soft. This is very soft. This is going to be stiffer, more of a handbag. This is just going to be a soft, squidgy tote with my panel. I'm going to use this flexible foam, as you can see. But that's for that. That's going to be softer. But this is going to be harder, but because we want to be able to sew it in the seams and turn it, we don't want all of that bulk in the seams. And that is why I fuse it not within the seams. So I may be making a big song and dance, as I do, make a big song and dance, but you want to realize why you're doing these things. You want to figure out exactly why and the construction. And then if you figure it out, then each project that you make will turn out that much nicer and that much more professional, really. So I'm just going to finish fusing these layers. See, that hasn't taken yet, not quite. So I'm just going to stay here and start fusing these layers a lot. Yeah, and then I'll be back. Now I'm at my machine, and I just wanted to show you what I was meaning by securing my interfacings to my fabric top. I've already done one. And as you can see, it just looks the same as when it came off of my ironing board. But as you can see on the inside here, is I have just stitched down the design, okay? Because I'm working with black, you can't even see it. I'm working with black thread on my black fabric. And I even did it in here. There's black stitching along here. I've not quilted this as such. I've just secured this interfacing, this hard interfacing now. Now, as you can see, I've done, maybe on this side you can see, I've done 2 lines of stitching on what will be my side seams. Here's the side seam so here's the side seam of my bag. So on my new tote bag, when I box the corners, where it is, right there, I wanted to have a little bit of interest, as you can see, of a top, sort of a top stitched decorative seam, decorative stitching on where there's my seam. Turn that in when I make my seam, and then I'll have this sort of decorative stitching. You'll see that. I did not do that on this bag. I just left that like that. But what I wanted to show you is you can't even really see it. But when I made my bag exactly like I made this, with all of my layers of interfacing and stabilizer, I actually stitched in a tan stitch right there, just along my panel. I just stitched it together to make sort of this to sort of make the pieces as one, as you can see that. So I'm just going to finish up this one. I'm going to do some decorative stitching along the side so that when it actually comes to wrapping around my side seam, you're going to see those 4 lines of stitching, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So, and then that also stiffens it up. And why I like to do that is instead of relying on the glue of the interfacing that you're using, which is fusible, which is wonderful, I'm really assured that my bag, after time, after using it, it's not going to sort of come apart. It's lined, you'll never see it, but you could feel it. And this lovely stiffening of your bag could sort of, as it will anyway, just sort of relax, but you don't want it to relax so much so that this all almost peels away. And as you can see, I have to do that a little bit more. Do you see that? I have to fuse that a little bit more. But when you do this, I'm assured that this is going to remain as one. Now, if you have an all-over pattern, as I said before, you could you can actually do a quilting stitch. When I'm going to do my other foam, it will show up. You'll see that quilting stitch when it makes it slouchy. But for this, I want it to be nice and stiff, and so that's how it's going to be. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop right now. I'm not going to go any further. Just a few little tips on how I'm doing this, and yeah, check back in later for my next video. Just a few little steps. I'm just taking it steady for my tutorial here, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you can figure out your own panel or your own interfacing, whatever you have to hand. If you have the proper stuff, awesome. But yeah, thanks so much, and I will see you. Check back again. All right, see ya. Bye.